वाटिका मार्च करवाएंगे तो 250 रुपए देगा। इसका कहाँ से जाएगा? अगर सब नहीं देते
Hey Shreya, I'm good. So can you just drop me an SMS? Yeah, or when should I start? Yeah. Okay, fair. Sure. Great. Thank you.
Hi guys, so we will be starting with the masterclass right now. A small introduction about me. My name is Shreyan Dotto Chakraborty. I look after the academic operations. I'm part of the academic operations team. And with us today we have Mr. Himanshu Manroa. So a little bit intro about Himanshu before he takes the floor. Mr. Himanshu is currently at Willis Towers Watson, a leading global risk advisor, insurance and reinsurance broker. He's spearheading the market and client insights global function in Mumbai. His efforts to increase sales, marketing, client management, and service operations effectiveness have been supporting businesses through a robust business research engine. His industry expertise, sales intelligence, customer relationship management, net promoter score, revenue synergies, and a knowledge management initiatives for a holistic view around actionable client insights. So yes, so now Mr. Himanshu, I request you to take the floor and start with the webinar. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Shreyan. That was really helpful. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and hope you are having a great start to the weekend. So let's get on with the masterclass for marketing and retail analytics. And before we get into this, a brief about the structure of this session. Yep, so the way we'll go, we have about 1 hour for today's session. The way this would be structured would be neatly into 2 halves. So we are at about 11:08, 11:10 right now. So let's count 1 hour from this time onwards. We'll break it today's session into 2 halves. So while the first one would be about running through or glancing through various marketing and retail terminologies, terms, techniques, frameworks, the various models that you would encounter in this journey, right? And we'll break open for a few questions which you can type on your chat box, and let's see, how many of these questions can we pick up within this session itself. So we'll break open for about 5 minutes of questions and answers at the midpoint. And then the next 30 minutes would be about the real crux of it, as we say in analytics, right? So let's talk about a few models and techniques and their real world applications. how is this really useful? How can we really apply some of these learnings, right? So that would be the next 30 minutes. And of course, towards the end, we'll once again reserve some time, about 5 minutes for questions. And let's see how many of them can we take, right? So that's quickly the agenda, the structure of today's session. And before we get in, a quick introspective question to all of you, right? So why? Why are we doing today's session, and why marketing and retail analytics per se? The reason being, if you look at analytics or marketing related analytics, it's retail which tends to have a lots of data around various customer touch points. Retail seems to be one of the sectors which is practicing the actual applications of analytics to the maximum. And we'll see some of these applications which we may or may not have realized while we get in touch with these interactions, right? We don't maybe understand that there is analytics at the back of it. So we'll check a few of these interactions. Of course, some other questions that we could really ask in today's session is, are analytic applications, be it retail or marketing, are they sector agnostic? I belong to a B2B sector, I belong to a B2C sector, or the kind of businesses, B2B or B2C, does it really makes a difference? Of course, so it's about a bird's eye view of the techniques and models, a top view, and then the bottoms up approach as well. So some real life cases and how do we actually solve them in our businesses. Yep. So that's the structure of today's session. Let's go. And as I mentioned, right, the first thing itself, before getting into anything, the why question, what's the ultimate goal of analytics? Why are we doing this? There could be lots of answers, right? Solving a business problem, increasing profitability, your top lines, your bottom lines, making a decision, lots of things that we could come up with in terms of our answers. Why do we want to do analytics? But if you look at it a bit holistically, the crux is what this gentleman once mentioned, famous for his quotes, Steve Jobs and Apple's, right? Ultimately, the real answer is your customer experience, or CX, as we say it nowadays, right? You can come up with a lot of models and techniques and frameworks and technologies, right? But the real question to be asked is, why are we doing this? Are we doing this technology for the sake of implementing an analytic model or a technique, or is there a customer reason at the end of it, right? So you need to start off with a customer experience, be it at an end-to-end level, or look at it through various touch points. Are we making a difference? And that's the way you need to then come up with analytic techniques and technology that should aid your customer experience journey. Yeah. And why do we speak about analytics applications in retail? Some real issues, real business issues in the real retail sector. The questions that come up for marketeers, for business leaders is, how do you place the merchandising aspect, various products and categories in your store? It doesn't matter, what's the size of the store, but placement plays a big role in the customer psyche. Do you have to walk to the length of the store to pick up milk? And you would have observed this, right? Milk and meat products are placed at the end of the aisle, at the end of the store. And then there are quick pick products like your chewing gums, your shaving blades, your toothbrushes, or various other quick picks or toffees or mints at the counter itself. There is a psychology to this. There is analytics driving these decisions. Which products would sell most at what times? How do you replenish your store? What's the inventory you want to keep? Is there analytics defining your supply chain management? Are there products that really go together, right? And does it make sense to keep them together? That's that's what we call as the clustering or market basket analysis in retail, and we'll touch on this topic right in today's session. So does it make a difference in keeping various products that tend to go together together in the store itself? Does the location of your store make a difference? Does the ethnic mix, where it is situated, the kind of population, that makes a difference? to your product mix, to the way you market, and to the way you place your products. And our customers in your locality or in your region, VFM customers. So VFM, value for money, are the customers more of premium products buyers? Are they more into health segment? Are they value for money customers? So it's more of need-based segmentation of your customers and their needs and requirements to drive your store-related strategy. So at a micro level, your store-related strategy, and at a macro level, what could be the supply chain management mix driving the large retail chains and stores. Yeah, you can easily categorize all these requirements in a 3x3 grid or matrix. Yeah, you can look at all your requirements and strategies through the lens of are they operational improvements? Are they tactical? Are they in the short term? Or are these decisions more strategic? And analytics can play a critical role in all these viewpoints in terms of your business strategies. Yeah. So that's the first lens: operational, tactical, strategic. Or it could also be the next part of the lens. The other part of it is what happened in the past, what's happening currently, how is it happening. So which is the lag effect or leading effect of your decisions. Are you analyzing data which happened, which occurred, and then taking decisions for the future? Or are you also playing the predictive game, looking at the various patterns and trends and forecasting the future? Yeah, so the what will happen part of it. So you will see a lot of operational decisions: your inventory, your demand, your shelf availability, the measurement of your KPIs or success business metrics, your order status, your promotions that are happening right now are all operational kind of methodologies that can be driven by analytic based decisions. You have your more tactical approaches and more strategic approaches, as you will see towards the right of this slide. Your customer behavior analysis, your scenario planning. You know, if X happens, if this event happens, if it's a rainy day, what would my store look like, right? It's a particular festive season. How should I stock my products, and which products based on the kind of festival that's approaching? You can look at causations. What is causing what kind of uptake from customers, and correlations. Yeah. So a good difference between causation and correlation. So things that can be highly correlated need not be causing each other. Yeah, and vice versa. You can evaluate your promotions at a tactical level. You can evaluate the effectiveness of your larger advertising campaigns at a more strategic level. Yeah, you can look at your promotion costs, your marketing costs, and of course you should be looking at your store level profitability as well. So it could be a large brand like, say, a big bazaar, but you would also have your store level analysis around what's the profitability of a store situated in a suburb, or a store situated in, say, South Mumbai. So as we discussed, retail allows us to look at a 360-degree view of your customer, the various touch points through which we are getting reams and reams of customer data. Yeah, and there is the way you can look at your data or describe data, as you will see in this particular slide. Descriptive data, which tells you about the features and characteristics of your customers. Their demographics, their age, their gender, their income patterns, where they are situated, what's their life stage, are they single, are they married, are they double income, no kids, that kind of life stage. So that's all about your descriptive data, factual data. It is what it is. You can't change it, right? You then have your behavioral data, which is based on customers' buying patterns, orders, transactions, the way they pay, the way they shop, the way they explore, their entire usage history, which is more behavior driven. Yeah, and it's not necessary that customers with a particular demographic will behave the same way as well. And that's the reason, the very basic fundamental of analytics. Why do we do analytics is because your behavior may not be caused by your descriptive or demographic parameters. You have your interaction data where customers are providing you with some footprints. They are leaving you with some transactional level, interactional level data. So it could be through social media, through your chat transcripts, emails, call center notes, the way people have been looking at your websites, or the way people have been looking at your stores. So it can be both digital as well as physical experiences of your customers. That's the interaction data. And finally, you have attitudinal data. So it's not, so there is a fine difference between behavioral data is what people have done, which has happened in the past, and attitudinal data is more about what people can do, what your customers are disposed towards, which can be collected more through your surveys or the way people have been reacting on perhaps social media. This is what we could do, right? So those are signs of what could happen in the future. Opinions, preferences, survey results, as you will see, social network data. Right. Ultimately, the goal is about increasing predictability. You do all the interactions that you look at, or analysis that you do through this data. It could be descriptive, diagnostic, but it could also be simulative and predictive, to understand who, what, how, why, to understand the deeper questions about your customers and your needs and their needs. Yeah, so this is the entire retail analytics canvas. We won't, of course, read through all the things that have been mentioned here, but in a nutshell, as you would see, is this is where analytics can really play a key role. In store operations, we spoke about market basket analysis. We'll be covering it today. How do you maintain your merchandises, your marketing analysis, the marketing mix, the way you promote, advertise through various mediums, the way you manage your categories within a retail store, and of course, the bottom part of it, right, which is the loss prevention, which could happen through various events. Now let's talk about customer loyalty. So when we mention customer loyalty in retail, or for that matter in any segment or any industries that you guys would be belonging to, I'm sure that's a big metric that we try to gauge, that we try to measure, monitor, and improve, which is your customer stickiness, your customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, various terms that we can use for this. And that's what you try to do in retail as well. You tend to look at your customers through various lenses and understand the levels of loyalty, the levels of their attraction to your brand, their stickiness to your brand. Are they visiting your stores or brands because they have no other options, because you happen to be within their vicinity, the closest? What if there was a competitor coming up very soon? What are their chances of attrition of going to the production brand? So how fickle your customers are? Are they really, no matter what, absolutely stuck to your brand or products? Or do they tend to waver a bit, experiment a bit? Or are they actually looking out big time based on their purchase patterns, based on their opinions? And that's what we can do through various data mining techniques. The product clustering, trying to identify various segments through various perspectives, and eventually identifying your best customers. And why do we need to understand our best customers? Is because it's a typical Pareto or 80-20 rule. You don't want to have equivalent promotions or time spent on all your customers. You would rather devote your energies, your promotions, your spends, or even your TV ads, the way you reach out to your customers who are most likely to purchase from you, and at the same time most likely to give you higher yields or returns in terms of each rupee or dollar spent on your marketings or promotions. Yeah, again, through a customer journey in retail, and I'm sure I would just want you to try to understand it from your own sectors and industries as well. what is a customer transaction profile, where all are we receiving customer data, and what all can be the source of our analytics. It could be purchase data, we mentioned that earlier, customer behavior. It could be loyalty data, the number of times you have made a purchase. One very important aspect of customer loyalty, which we'll again talk about in this session, is the recency frequency monetary model, the RFM model in retail. Yeah, so which is about how recent have customers shopped in your store, how frequent they have been. So they could have recently purchased, say yesterday, but are they purchasing just once a month, or are they coming on all months in a year, or are they coming on particular weekdays? So that's the frequency. So recently, how recent they are, how frequent they are, and the biggest part of it, the monetary aspect. So they could be visiting you regularly, they could be visiting you off late as well, but are they really giving you big ticket purchases, or are they just purchasing maybe breads and eggs out of your store? So it's really important to know what are customers purchasing. So that's the RFM model that tells you about various segments of your customers, which are your really high value customers and which are not so high valued customers. Then of course we have the demographic data, factual, which which you can get through various means. You can get it through surveys, you can get it through customer transactions, and of course, marketeers do try to keep this data as live as possible. That's more about the KYC, right? Age, income, life stage we mentioned, gender, occupation, education, lifestyle, interest. So there could be particular customers who are more interested in more sports part of the equation. So purchasing more sporty products or health products or organic foods, it's really essential for you to know, are you situated in an area which has customer preferences leaning towards these kind of segments. And then of course, the opinion or attitudinal data, which can be gathered through surveys. It could be more micro or tactical in nature, like how likely are you to purchase this product which is about to be launched, or what would be your reactions to this price differences in a customer, at what price point are you most likely to purchase this product, and your likelihood to shop in some other store which we are planning to open up in a new location. We spoke about market basket analysis, and this is what a typical market basket analysis would tend to answer. Is so there is this interesting Walmart study in US where it's known that beer is kept next to baby diapers in various stores, and it's not based on whims and fancies of store managers, but because there is an detailed analytical exercise at the end of it, which determines that diapers and beer tend to sell very well together. There is a high correlation, and there is an understanding as well. So could be young fathers who have just dropped by to purchase diapers, and then they happen to take along beer cans as well. And there is proven analytical and behavioral data to prove it. And that's why it makes sense to keep beers and diapers together in your store, so that you have higher level of customer uptake. So that's what market basket is all about. So within your customer basket, what are the products that are most likely to go together, sell well together, and in that case, why not keep them close together in your store? Yeah, various things that can come out of this. Bananas go very well with cornflakes. This is again coming from a Walmart study. Flashlights go very well with Halloween costumes. Think about it, makes sense. Yeah, bug spray goes well with hunting gear. So products that go well together, sell together. Retail analytics. So we spoke about customer segments. So your various models, or as we call them as propensity models, disposition models, would allow you to define your customer segments, and not just on the basis of customers' income, their demographics, basic demographic based segmentation, I would say, is a thing of the past. When you are just looking at your customers as high revenue, low revenue, their income patterns, no. So even customers with low level income could be buying really premium products, say premium mobiles, premium technology products. So you need to define your customer segmentations based on their actual purchase history and based on their preferences, opinions, and attitudes, and of course their life stage where they are at. Yeah, so you could have new earning members just join the workforce, starting to earn, and they are highly oriented towards high tech products. And that's the way marketeers would tend to define their customer segments. Fresh foodies, natural, organic product oriented customers. You have high flyers, they have less time but more disposable money. They would come to your shop less often, but their ticket price would be much higher. So every time they come over, they tend to purchase a lot or stock for the month. And then of course you have your typical budget driven customers, which are more around value. So even a 1 rupee increase in a particular product, say bread or eggs or milk, could take them away from not purchasing. So that could be how sensitive they are to various price points. So what would you do to get them through the door? Keep the basic, some of the prices of basic products at reasonable levels, at accurate levels, and then try to increase the customer profitability by selling them other products based on their needs, but being very sensitive about typical products where they can be whimsical about the price points. That's the way you would define your customer segments. That's the way a typical analytical model would look. This is a cross-segment financial stats. We won't get once again, to the depth of this, but that's the way you would look. If it was 100% of your customers, how many are the percentage of trips, net dollars? So these are various segments that you are seeing at the columns. Quick fixers, urban seekers, marketeers have their way of giving various names to their segments. And you can look at the differences through this basic cross tabulation of data. That's the way households in this particular examples are profiled on their shopping behavior. And you can then look at the various differences in shopping patterns. Another part we spoke about is product clusters. That's also defined by market basket analysis. So, you can look at these various clusters, which may not be the same product category, but they happen to sell well, go well together. You have your trip segmentation. Yeah. So which is, so your purchases may not just be defined by all the parameters we discussed earlier. You could be having different reasons and different needs at different types of times of the day that drive your purchase pattern. Yeah, your routine replenishment, which could happen, say, once a week, could be about various grocery products. You could make quick trips over the weekend or perhaps during evening times, early morning times, for stocking up on beers and cigarettes. And then of course you would have your typical breakfast kind of trips, where you would definitely not want to go into a large retail store, a large supermarket or a mall, but you would want to go into your local kirana store around for making your breakfast trip, your cereals, your coffee. And that's the way your various trips are determined. Store segmentation, carrying on from the last slide. So you would want to go to various stores for various reasons. I'm sure all of us are aware of the specialty store called Decathlon, right? The sports specialty store. How far are you willing to travel to Decathlon stores? I think there are just 2 or 3 of them in Mumbai. So I'm sure customers would be willing to travel, say, 20 odd kilometers because they want to go to a specific store for a specific reason. But would you be willing to go that far for your big bazaars or D-marts of the world? Perhaps not. Yeah, so that's interesting to know and key to know. Your store profile, the size of your store, the address of your store, the vicinity or locality you are based in, the customer data that you have been collecting around your area, the attitudinal and survey data, the competition around your locality, right? So you could be a DMart, but you also happen to have Hypercity or Big Bazaar or lots of competition around your buzzing locality. That makes a difference as well. Yeah, because your retailers are very interested to know about your catchment area analysis, which is, as we mentioned, how far can your customers travel for this particular store. So would it be a radius of say 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile, or are people really willing to travel to this specialty store for about say 20 miles? And that determines where should you be present or opening up your new store uh, based on these kind of analysis and market understanding. We have promotion analysis, which is if you come up with a particular direct mailer. Yeah, direct mailers are when you send out specific pamphlets or brochures to your customers. It could be physical, it could be through emails, right? And each one of them is a marketing spend, right? In terms of actual marketing spend, the postage spend, the printing spend, the spends that your marketing team is spending on that campaign in putting up that campaign together. So that's why it needs to be, it can't be everything for everybody. You need to know who is the customer segment that I am targeting, and what are the incremental gains that I'm getting out of this particular campaign or direct mailer. So that's another typical analysis around your direct mail costs. And as you know, it's the law of diminishing returns. So till a point, you send it to these many percentage of your customers, your margin would increase, but then at a particular point, it would start plateauing. So you need to know what's that plateau point, where beyond this point, it's a law of diminishing return. So this is the maximum number of customers that I need to send my particular direct mailer to. That's your promotion analysis. By what point can you expect getting incremental gains? Personalization, another great facet of analytics and artificial intelligence, of course. You would see this in a lot of your e-commerce brands. A thing that really comes up is, customers who bought this product also brought this kind of products. That's driven by really high level of analytics and artificial intelligence in the background, which tells you about customers' actual behavior, their shopping behavior, their patterns, and which emerges as a particular manual or model for other possible customers, potential customers. Why don't you buy these things as well? So, how do you want to make references to your customers? Why you have bought this? How about checking out these kind of products as well? Now that's the customer loyalty part, which is your high value customers, your medium value customers, and your low value customers. This is based on customers' spends, who are most profitable, who are least profitable. And that's the way you would see the various shopping carts that are offered to you. Can you become a platinum member if you spend this much, or gold member? That's all driven by estimating the lifetime value of your customers through these kind of models. We spoke about the RFM model. So on the extreme left, you will see the frequency, how often have you been buying. Then this next table is the monetary value. What's the average ticket price of each of those visits? And then you have the next 4 columns, which are about recency. Have you been shopping in the last 2 months, 3 to 4 months, 5 to 6 months, over 6 months? If you try to break your customers through this basic recency, frequency, monetary kind of model, this is what you can come up with, which is, you break up through recency lens your customers into 2 segments: customers who have been visiting you for at least once in the last 3 to 4 months, or they have not visited you more than the last 5 months. So that makes them more recent, and not so recent, or perhaps lapsed customers. Then you break them through the second criteria, which is of frequency, and the third one is monetary. So, and that's what will enable you to define the 6 segments. Customers who have been very recent but purchasing low values and low frequencies, your first time customers, they might have just happened to pass through your stores. Customers who have been buying low and with low frequency, so we look at the other part of it, are your low value customers that you should definitely ignore and not spend any of your marketing spends on. The real important segments are the ones at the bottom. So your early repeat customers, they have been coming often, they have been making decent purchases, their frequency has been fine. You need to really look at ways to upsell to these customers who are your early repeat customers. The other part of it, the corollary, is your defectors. They had been buying quite a bit. They were visiting your stores quite often, but they have not visited you for the last 5 to 6 months, which are your lapsed customers. They have just gone out of the window. You need to look at various analysis to see what was the reason which drew them away from your brand. And at the bottom of it are your high value customers. They are decent, they are buying a lot, they are coming more and more often. Your biggest marketing attention should be to this, your high value customers. And then of course you have your core defectors. They had been buying a lot, they were really frequent, but wow, they have not come to you for a long period. So your defectors and core defectors is what needs to be analyzed, and your early repeat customers and high value customers are what needs to be reached out much more through upsell and cross sell. Yeah, that's the way you would look at your RFM analysis. An action that you can take through your RFM is incentivize and preserve the ones who are devoted, the ones who are buying a lot and visiting a lot. Potential people who can buy much more, expand and nurture, reach out to them more often through various quick fixes or discounts or promotions. And then you have your borderline or lapse cases. You need to reacquire them, or at times you need to ignore them as well. Righto. So your customer lifestyle attributes also leads to various kind of segmentation. This particular part is self-explanatory. So various products, some are low price, some are the positioning is fresh. For some, the positioning is, it caters to a particular taste, but like you would see in the extreme right, Everest Sambar Masala. It's branded, it's South Indian, it's quick to make, ready to eat kind of products. So what is your positioning? That's the way your stores would define various customer positioning and then try to take them together. So is it, the kind of cuisines? Is it the kind of brands? Is it exotic? So these are your customer positioning elements that play a large role in defining whom do you want to reach out to. Yeah, you also make your lifestyle or customer persona based on these kind of positioning elements. The attributes in your basket, the kind of products that you are buying, tells a lot about you as a customer segment. And some other useful models in retail. We come to the first part of it. As I mentioned, we'll take a break here. We have other useful models in research, in retail. Your segmentation based, CRM based, and consumer insight based. So these are some models for you to think about, reflect, and introspect that you could do in retail for sure. But can you do it in your industries? Are some of these models sector agnostic? Yeah, why not? So as it goes, for the end of this, the interim period in our presentation is don't find customers for your products, find products for your customer. So let's take a break for questions. So Shreyan, do we have any questions so far?
Right. So far, we're still getting questions. So we do not have any questions as of now. So as I said, as Himanshu said, the floor is open for questions. So yeah, please do ask away. Right. So there is one question. So the question is, if there are a group of medium value customers and a small group of high value customers contributing equally to the top line and contributing equally to the sales of a particular company, then what will
Yeah.
analytics target for addressing loyalty?
Yeah, so good question. So I think this is what we are looking at, right? So your early repeat customers and high value customers, medium value and high value customers, and what will analytic tell you, right? Analytic will tell us focus on the monetary part. Yeah. So you should devote a large chunk, even if they are right now giving you top lines which are equal. Think about it, right? You are devoting lesser time to people who are giving you big ticket returns, the high value customers. uh, they're the in terms of the value, right? It could be equal to your top line, but imagine these are the customers who are giving you more revenue per customer. So you would really like to focus more on these customers, reach out to them through more promotions, more coupons. At the same time, you of course won't want to ignore the other segment as well. You would try to upsell to them through more personalization based analytics. Is how about buying these products which could go well within your clusters. So it's managing both those segments, but of course having a preference towards the one which are giving you more monetary returns, even if from a top line perspective they are equal.
Right, right. Thank you much for that answer. One more question. This is an interesting question. So, what if the product is a one-time buy? Like we all know that there are some premium products in the market or some products which are just a one-time buy. So, how can analytics help me in identifying the customer base of who to target?
Yeah, exactly. So that's where you would look at customers' life stage. So I understand, your biggest, your white house or white products, like your refrigerators, you could have a bicycle, which are your, or television, which are your one-time purchase. That's where what's really important is to understand the life stage of a customer. So which life stage is he or she at? What are they potentially looking out to buy? Think about it, somebody who has bought a big ticket item, like say a house, purchased a property, you would get this data from various sources. Now people who have purchased a property would definitely be looking at purchasing your white goods, and that's what analytics can help you understand. If you are around these real estate stores or locations, now customers will be going for white goods, and I need to start reaching out to them with much more targeted campaigns. Yeah.
Right, right. One more question before we move on to the next part of the session. So here the question is how analytics will be used to identify, like, for if let's say there are new products introduced in my, like, in a particular market, in a particular supermarket, let's say. So
Yeah.
how do we do that? Which customers to target? Like how analytics will be used, or like how analytics is used in this scenario?
That's a very good primary research question, and that's why you see there are products launched in the market on the floor, right? They don't come up, or they are not airdropped. There is a lot of survey and attitudinal data and opinion based primary research that has gone into the background before products are launched on in various retail stores that you see, and that's where primary research comes handy. So I'm sure you must have seen a lot of these exit surveys or product samples when you visit various stores. It's just to understand your preference, just to understand your propensity. There are a lot of product-based analysis or research which happens. Here is the product which we are planning to launch. How likely are you to buy it? And what is the price that you are expecting for this particular product? And that's where the price elasticity is understood as well. At this point, the product would be optimally priced. At this point, it would be too premium and too expensive. I won't even look at it. And the other part of it, at this point, this would be so cheaply priced that I would start doubting its quality. So these are all the pre-research or surveys that happen before you see new products being launched.
Right. So I think that's the number of questions. I think we should move on to the next part or next segment of this session. And
Yeah.
all the one just small note to all the participants: please do ask questions. Keep on posting questions over here on the box. We will again get back to it at the end of the session. Please do ask so that we have like more questions over here. Over to you, Himanshu.
Thank you, Shreyan. So as we mentioned, we'll look at some success models, some success stories that we have seen various retail stores or retailers, be it in India or be it examples from abroad or outside India. These are some stories that we see based on the models and techniques that we have spoken about. The first one being understanding your shoppers to increase their share of wallet. Now that's a phrase which you will keep hearing a lot when you are deep into analytics, is what's my customer's share of wallet? Yeah, so share of wallet is could be your customer's disposable income. You need to know for a customer how much is his overall spends are looking like, and within those overall spends, what is it that I'm gaining a share of his wallet? Yeah, so that's a situation where a premium retailer wanted to understand my shoppers, how much are they buying from me and how much are they buying from my competitors, to understand the competitive differentiation. So this is what you will see if you look at the chart on the right. So this is a typical spider chart, and at the bottom this chart represents your four peers, peer 1, peer 2 to peer 4, and the retailer, which is you yourself. So how are you differentiated with your competitors in on these four parameters? A, total spends; B, international spends; total number of customers; and online spend. So you can guess, based on this is a typical travel portal, something like say a Make My Trip, which has done this analysis. Now this analysis helps you understand. Look at peer 1, the online spends, the number of customers. I mean, it's really significantly high than anybody else on that entire group, right? And this then gives you that trigger point to ask other questions. Why does this peer of mine has so many customers, so much online spend, so many number of transactions? That's a share of wallet analysis. Yeah, you can look at similar kind of projects now in closer to retail environment as well. If you look at retailer 1, retailer 2, retailer 3, now these are various parameters which are important for retailers, inside store and outside store as well, which is your brand imagery as well. So you would look at some of those parameters, your corporate values, your customer complaints. So this is more towards the servicing part or the image of your brand. And then towards the right of the spider chart, you will see more in-store related parameters: navigation, store environment, is it stocking up unique innovative products, quality of products, price and value. So this data you can again get through primary research, or you can look at it through transactional level data as well, where you are actually looking at the bills of customers and understanding this amongst various retailers. So there are primary research agencies who could do these kind of surveys for you, and of course they would keep the names of some of the competitors more like a syndicated research. They would keep it confidential, but there is a possibility to gain this kind of data, which then tells you quite pointedly how is my total shopping experience looking like and which are the parameters that I need to focus on. Yeah, how would you increase customer stickiness, loyalty, and profitability? By measuring customer satisfaction. So let's look at this situation. A leading specialty apparel retailer is under a lot of economic pressure. The sales are down. It now wants to understand what's my customer value, and customer value is what we explained earlier, right? Your high value customers, your early adapters, your defectors, and you want to look at their shopping behavior to retain the best and increase stability in spends of others. So if you look at the sample output towards your right, these are your various way that you have defined your customers: high value, high frequency, economy spenders, the ways that you have defined these segments. And then you are looking at their interactions. Yeah. So how would 100% tally up within these customers on a particular period? And if you look at the unprofitable migration part of it, so these are your high value, low frequency customers which have been shifting over. So it is looking at the shifting of these segments. Yeah. So how is the customers? So your customers are not static. We need to understand that a customer who is high value once could not remain your high value customer for forever. So how are they actually shifting? So that tells you a lot about the pressures that your customers are facing and what could you do to salvage the situation. Now we would want to focus the next few minutes on two of these models. So one is your market mix modeling, right? So this is an example of your marketing spends. Now the kind of techniques that you would use to determine this would be your typical regression models. We won't of course go through the jargons or the techniques or the statistical heavy loaded part of it, but this is what it is, right? So if your dependent variable, if the problem is my sales volumes, I need to look at my sales volumes and the impact of a recently launched campaign or an advertisement or a promotion on my sales volume, right? Now, in today's times of integrated marketing campaigns, right, you would run your campaigns on various mass media, be it on TV, print. You would look at your in-store promotions, your various promotions that are running inside the store to talk about that campaign. You would look at sampling related spends where you are offering a few free samples to your customers. And then there are other factors, right, which determines your sales, which are more external in nature. So your distribution, your competition, your supply chain, and that's what would define, a dependent variable is sales. What is the contribution of all these other independent variables, which is in totality called as my marketing mix, and how much is the load or importance that each of this factor is giving to my sales. So that's regression techniques. They allow you to come up with these kind of models. They would give you the load point of each of those attributes. And then let's look at it this way, right? You need to understand as a retailer, as a marketeer, is your base. What are your base factors and what are your incremental factors? Now, incremental factors are factors which are, you tweak a bit of those factors and you can see your sales rising. So imagine, if you were to raise your TV spends, your TV advertisement spends by a particular amount, that should lead to a rise in sales. Yeah, so those are your incremental factors, and your base factors are something like, say, your competition. You have no say in determining your competition. You have to live with it. So those are your base factors which you have to accept as a business person, as a retailer, as a marketeer, and your incremental factors are which you can tweak, increase, decrease, status quo so that it makes a difference to your sales volumes. Yeah, so that's the basic differentiation. Now let's take this quick exercise. Price. What is price? Is it base or incremental? It's base. Yeah, so your price of the product is your price of the product. Your TV, radio, these are the factors which you can tweak, we mentioned, right? So these are your incremental marketing elements. Competition, base, you can't change that. Category, volume sales, again base. So you can't influence a category. If a category is selling, if SUVs, the size of a sports utility vehicle in India is this much, then that's the category. You have to play within that category. Your print, again, that's incremental, that's external. Your trade, percentage volumes based on feature, display, incremental. You can go to the trade stores and increase your point of displays, your point of sale display in retail stores. You have the possibility. Circulations, discounts, coupons, redemptions, incremental. Seasonality index, you have to live with it. It's base, right? Your retail stores tend to do well on festivals, on weekends. That's the nature of the game. Internet impressions, clicks, again incremental. You can influence that. Coupons, it's the same thing, which is incremental. Shelf talk, in-store promotions, incremental. So it's essential to look at all your marketing elements. Are they base or are they incremental? Can you make a change? Consumer price index, that's the way the economy is behaving. You have to play within the economy. You can't determine that, right? An interesting model which is around your brand loyalty. We have been speaking about brand loyalty. Imagine, if a new cola wants to come up, and it needs to understand the customer's fidelity, or how likely are they to switch over from their existing brands. So you imagine, if this was a Pepsi brand A, and if this was a Coca-Cola brand B. So now this chart tells you about how loyal are my brand A customers and brand B customers. So what you will see is percentage of buyers on your y-axis and their exclusivity levels as it changes from left to right, from brand A to brand B, right? So if they were 100% of customers, as you will see in this breakup, about less than 30%, so something about, say, let's say 28% of them are exclusive to brand A. So in their shopping analysis over a period of time, they have only purchased, so about 20% of your customers have stuck to brand A no matter what. Similarly, on the extreme right, you will see a much lesser, let's say about 10% of the are your brand B exclusive loyal customers. So this chart tells us pretty fairly that brand A customers are much more loyal, or are they much more stuck to their brand. So that's good news for brand A, but that's for another potential cola brand coming in. They have to fight a bigger battle with brand A as compared to brand B in terms of loyalty. And that's the way you would see the loyalty dipping from left to right. So of course you would see much bigger bars towards the left, because those are your customers. Now let's look at the second bar. So they have bought brand A much lesser number of time. Yeah. Now this is your market basket analysis. Now that's a very interesting thing. Of course, we are trying to give you a very top level view of how this analysis would look like. But imagine if you have zillions of data points, right? And in retail, how would this analysis look? It's real big data. Yeah, but here is it in a very, very easy to understand manner, the market basket analysis. Imagine you have 5 customers walking through your store, and this is what their basket looks like in terms of products that they have bought. And this is what we'll try to analyze in a market basket analysis, when you want to look at which products to keep close together and which products can be paired with each other. So when you see a lot of these schemes, right? So you buy orange juice, you will get soda free, or vice versa. That is not based on some random marketing decision. It is driven by analytics. Now, a better way to understand, look at these 4 customers. Their baskets look like: customer 1, shoes, socks, tie, belt. Customer 2, shoes, socks, tie, belt, shirt, hat. Now these are your 4 customers and the 4 transactions that they have made in your store. Now what is market basket analysis, right? For this for this particular example, let's consider socks and tie. How often would you see socks and tie going together? So if you look at all these 4 transactions, within this 4, how often do you see socks and tie together in a basket? It's in transaction 1 and transaction 2. So that's 2 out of 4 baskets have seen socks and tie going together. Now this is called as your support in terms of statistical way that you will look at this data is support. Now support means the frequency within the total number of transactions where you would see this particular correlation happening. So 2 out of 4 times you would see socks and tie going together. Now the second part of it, which is the real market basket bit, is how often when you have purchased a tie, are you likely to purchase socks as well, a pair of socks, right? You will see you have purchased tie thrice, transaction 1, 2, and 3. Now within these 3 transactions, you have purchased a pair of socks just twice, which is in transaction 1 and transaction 2. Now that is your confidence level. So your association rules are inherently two-tiered. One is support, the next is confidence. Now your confidence level of socks and tie going together is 2 out of 3, which is 66.67%. Now that tells you, right, a high percentage, 50% of my customer baskets have both these products. And when people buy tie, at least 2/3 of those times they do buy a pair of socks as well. So it does make sense. There is a good amount of statistical significance attached to this, that you keep your socks and tie together in your store. Now, if you look at this, it might look particular chart a bit complicated at the start of it, but there is a very simple way of looking at this chart. So let's start from extreme left. So the earlier example that we considered was about 4 transactions, but obviously your stores have much larger number of transactions. So you have, imagine in your top left, database D, which is about 1,000 transactions in your store. If you look at TID, which means number of transactions, that's transaction ID. So 100 plus 200 plus 300 plus 400. So these are 1,000 transactions. Now we are looking at a data of 1,000 transactions. Items are your products within your basket. So that's the way the baskets are. 100 of baskets or transactions have items 134, 200, 235, and likewise. Now that's your existing data set. You would scan this data and you would come up with the support thing that we spoke about earlier, the number of time you would see various transactions, right? So inherently you will see there are about 5 different products, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In these baskets, how often have you seen product 1? You would see product 1 in the TID items mentioned 100 and 300. That's the time you have seen product 1. So that's where the support is 2. Now let's look at product 2. How often is it mentioned? It's mentioned in 200, 300, and 400. So it's mentioned thrice. Likewise, you will do it for all the 5 products. And then the next part, which is L1, you will eliminate the one which is of minimum support or one which has minimum presence. So you can fairly understand product 4, which is present in just the TID 100, those items, which means it has minimal presence in your shopping basket, you will take it off. This is, doing a market basket analysis through the law of elimination. That's what will happen to your analytical model in the background. We are just trying to open up that black box and see how does this model work. Now, the second part is if you look at the remaining products 1, 2, 3, and 5, how often are they mentioned? 2, 3, 3, 3, right? When they are paired. And when we say paired is when is, so it's 1 is mentioned now in these products twice, thrice. You look at item set C2. So now within these products 1, 2, 3, and 5, what are the pairs that we can think of? So there are 6 pairs, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 5, 2, 3, 2, 5, and 3, 5. How often are these products paired? Scan D. We come to 1, 2 is present. Let's look at the actual data, right? Database D and compare it. 1, 2 is present just 1 in TID 300s. 1, 3 is present twice in TID 100 and TID 300. So these are the strength of those pairs. Once again, you will eliminate the pairs which are least strength. So you take off 1 and 2, you take off 1 and 5, and you are remaining with these 4 pairs, 1, 3, 2, 3, 2, 5, 3, 5. Of them, the strongest is 2, 5, which is practically mentioned products 2 and 5 are present in baskets 200, 300, and 400. Now finally you will look at triplets, right? And the triplet is 2, 3, and 5, which is present in baskets titled TID 200 and titled 300. Now that's your basket analysis. Products 2, 3, and 5 tend to go together twice. You will see they are 200 plus 300. They are present in 500 out of 1,000 baskets. Now that's huge probability, right? 50% of your baskets do contain 2, 3, 5, all these 3 products. It makes sense to keep them together or market them together, right? So we come to the end of today's session. We have maintained the timeline within an hour. Some phrases that you should be using and that you will come across, or I would say, you should start getting attuned to as you pursue this analytics journey, is it's okay to not know everything, right? There are lots of techniques and frameworks and industries and sectors in an analytical journey. You couple that with things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. There is lots going around in this area. So it's okay to not know everything. Pick up your strengths, pick up your areas you want to target and pursue them. We mentioned this at the start of the session. So, does it make a difference that if I belong to a B2B industry or B2C kind of industry? No, because at the end of it, everything is H2H, which is human to human. Analytics is a kind of psychological. It's about psychology. It's about statistics. It's a science, right? Which determines customer behavior. So at the end of it, wherever there is customer behavior, there is human at the end of it. So it's sector and industry agnostic. As long as there are humans taking decisions, there will always be analytical models that can predict those decisions much better. Next part, not in all analysis is analytics, right? There is some basic slicing and dicing of data, cross tabulation. So don't let people get away with this myth, we are doing some deep dive analytics. A lot of analytics could also be simple analysis and understanding of your data, and it need not involve any statistical models or machines or techniques. Don't miss woods for the trees. Focus on the data, the consumer insights. There will always be a lot of noise around the data that you see in your companies, in your systems. Don't get distracted and focus on what is the ultimate goal that you are trying to achieve through that small exercise you are undertaking with that data. Yeah. Another part is inch wide, mile deep, or mile wide, inch deep. That's a phrase that you would hear, right? Should you boil the ocean and look at a lot of data to come up with a model? Rather, boil a smaller ocean, look at maybe 20% of data, 10% of your sample data, which is much more smaller, much easy to analyze, much more reliable, and come up with models based on that, rather than fighting the data battle and trying to get everything solved in one go. There is a difference between causation and correlation. That's number 6. Two events could be going together. Every time I have a flat tire, India wins the match in World Cup. That's highly correlated. But is my flat tire causing India to win? No. So we need to understand similar relations within our data. Two things could be going together, but they are not causing each other. So let's not get fooled by it. Segment of one. So there are many companies and industries nowadays who are proclaiming we can look at our customer segments as small as one, which means each customer is a segment in itself. Really? No, it's not worth it. Your segmentation exercises should be large enough for you to be focusing your marketing and your business spends on, right? Companies can claim to say, analytics can claim to say that we know what are the preferences of each single of our customers, but still it makes sense only to look at customers through a sizable segment before making any critical decisions. And finally, if you try to pursue analytics within your organizations, you also have to keep the alternative business case ready. You would often face this question, which is about, what's the return on investment? What's the cost of doing this particular model? Why should I do it? What if I don't do it? So you should be able to convince to your management, to your organizations, fair enough, but what's the cost of not doing it? If we were not to understand our customer segments, there is a much higher loss in losing some of our existing customers to a competitor. So, keep your alternative theories ready if you are trying to convince your organizations about picking up analytical models or a few smaller chunks in the analytical journey. Yeah. If you could spend 10 seconds of all the things that we have discussed today in trying to caption this slide. So this is what we spoke earlier, I think just a minute ago, is don't miss the woods for the trees. Yeah, so stay focused as you try to pick up smaller chunks of analytics based projects within your organizations. Right, open to questions, Shreyan.
Thank you so much for the session. We do have a lot of questions over here.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a question say, hey, how business analytics and digital marketing can complement each other?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a subset. They go perfectly well together. We haven't covered it in this session, but web analytics is a completely different, thriving and striving area as well. Web analytics, right? The number of clicks, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, how are customers behaving on your websites, on your digital forum. So think about it, guys. It's just a different distribution channel of doing business, digital, right? Some of these e-commerce sites, their entire model is digital. So that's your retail store instead of a physical retail store. So actually all the analytics, right, that we spoke about can be very well implemented on your digital marketing forums as well. So like we mentioned, merchandising. Imagine, the way you place your products on your websites is another way of placing your products that are clustered together. So actually digital marketing is the marketing part of it is the outside, the customer interfacing part of it, how you reach out to your customers. But what goes in the back end is all driven by analytics in the digital world as well.
Right, right. So there's one more question, and I think this is really important. So can a person with, someone has asked, can a person with 15 plus years of experience, let's say non-analytics background,
Yeah.
transition into field? Like, what is the way that to upskill? Like, if yes, then what is this thing? Like, can a person with 15 plus years of non-analytics background transition into the field of analytics?
Brilliant question. And I'm sure, a lot of us have these questions. Is it too late for me to catch that analytics bus? So the good news is no, right? And as I mentioned, is pick up elements within your organization if there are areas or opportunities, smaller data sets, smaller problems that you can solve, reach out to the people who make a difference and propose them, as you learn various tricks of the and techniques within this course, is pick up smaller chunks, small projects, take baby steps, convince people, create business cases that this is what I want to solve, a smaller problem through analytics. Now, if that is not possible within your organization, if you see a ceiling, it doesn't hamper if you keep looking out. Maybe in smaller analytical driven organizations, startups, there are lots of entrepreneurs out there in the analytics space. You can, but you need to excel. That's the point. You are always fighting with the young blood. You are fighting with the young ones, right? So you have to excel in one particular area, pick up a small project, a technique that you really excel in, and go out and display. The only difference is that you will have to have hands-on knowledge. You can't just speak analytics. In analytics, you have to get your hands dirty, prove projects, have some sample case studies, some success stories, and start reaching out to people. In a nutshell, a single word answer, it's possible, even after your 15 years of non-analytics experience.
I think that's a perfect way to put it, Himanshu. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. And I think we will close with one question, the last
sure.
questions. Yes, so one more question. So people are here a little bit concerned that, hey, if I'm not from a technical background, can I still pursue analytics?
Yes. Yes. Okay. That's a detailed subject in itself. But again, I'll try to keep it short. Yes. So your success in analytics is not determined by if you are not from a technical background. So there are two lenses to analytics. One is the IT part of it, the data visualization, creating data sets, data warehousing. That's also a subset of analytics. And next is the statistics part of it, which is more about techniques and models that we have been discussing all along. But even if you don't belong to either of these segments, take heart that still you can have a career in analytics, because analytics also needs is business translators. So people with good domain expertise. You may not be a statistician or an IT personnel, but you may still be rich in your domain understanding about, say, telecom or media or manufacturing or retail. If you understand those domain, you can play a big role understanding these analytical frameworks, and being that business translator, that domain expert. So you will have teams working for you creating the models, but your success in analytics is about how do you sell these models, the impact of these models to your management and leaders. So you need not be a technical expert, but you can still succeed in analytics. And it's never too late to make a start and understanding these concepts.
Right. I think that sort of brings it to a close. Thank you, Himanshu, for taking this session and giving us insight into how analytics works into marketing and retail and how we can always transition. There's no barrier and there's no one stopping transitioning career into analytics. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for the session. So
Thank you, Shreyan.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye.